Are you interested in the paranormal?
What the government tries to hide?
Or even what happened to missing persons?
Well, you've come to the right place, because so are we. My name's Emmy.
And I'm Emma.
And this is the M&Ems Unwrapped.
Yo, I didn't have the doc pulled up for the intro, and I'm like, oh, we're starting. I just had to recite it from memory.
So in today's episode, we're going to be talking about Hitler, Alcatraz, and Brothers of the Tower.
So,
I'll get
so basically,
huge
Hitler,
trigger warning. Huge trigger warning.
It's just basically Hitler
A lot
and
of
some
death.
brothers who escaped and some brothers who were not as fortunate. So,
Lots of mentions of death and methods of death and suicide and death. Just
yeah. So,
little special scenes. Okay, so Hitler is someone we should all know. He was the leader responsible for the mass genocide of Jews and other political opponents, and the unforgettable Second World War.
yeah.
But I feel like it's not really as well known. Like, how did he die? Like, a lot of people just assume, he probably committed suicide. But like, what really happened? Like, where did his body go? Like, what happened? It's kind of like one of those very brush over topics. But to kind of get into it, this is the story that we know. So Hitler was a man who had a really, really large ego. He thought of himself as a god, and but after the Soviets were progressing through East Berlin, he decided not to give in. No, because I'm the leader. I'm the alpha. I'm the leader. I'm the one to trust.
Stop right now.
But to end his life, because he knew what happened to Mussolini and his wife, which was they were assassinated and then hung upside down. Their bodies were hung upside down for the public to beat. But he wanted to keep his dignity, like anybody would. So he went into his bunker, married his longtime mistress, finished his will, and made his last political statement. And then he went into a room with his mistress, where he would have a self-inflicted demise via gunshot wound. Mistress would have taken a cyanide pill. But historians also believe he could have taken a cyanide pill while he committed. But not long after, the Soviets found the base, where they hastily buried the bodies of Adolf and Eva, his mistress. They moved them to East Germany, where they were buried again. And then they burned their bodies or something. The KGB ordered to burn and scatter the ashes of their bodies, so then they couldn't make a Hitler memorial, like a neo-Nazi shrine essentially.
Yeah.
So they found a remaining jaw fragment, which was later identified by the Soviets and belonged to Hitler. But these are some theories.
But if they spread his ashes, then how would there be a jaw fragment?
Exactly. I don't know. So there are a bunch of declassified FBI files on accounts of Hitler lookalikes with his face change, with possible plastic surgery, in which were mainly spotted
Hitler
in South
had
America.
plastic surgery.
This is just what they thought, because they had to rule out
What?
all possible. Yeah.
But how would you get plastic surgery in those times?
You could get plastic surgery. It was
How would
invented
you do
after
it?
World War I because of soldiers, coming back with their faces, and yeah.
Shambles.
Yeah.
So it was basically used for medical
reasons.
and then
eventually okay. Yeah.
And literally anybody in
But
Hollywood.
essentially, they would assume he would have plastic surgery to change his identity, and then a lot of them were spotted in South America.
Why
but
South America?
I'll tell you in a second. But he would have escaped via body doubles taking refuge in churches, which actually wasn't uncommon because many churches in Europe would shelter Nazis. They could just walk into church and be like, "Can you shelter us?"
What?
Everybody's against it. I don't know. But they would. But essentially, he would make his way church by church and then to the German coastline and hop on a U-boat to South America. But also, the reason why he was mostly spotted in South America was because a lot of Nazis escaped there. I don't really know exactly why, but that was just the Nazi hideout. I'm pretty sure because the leader of somewhere, I don't know, but a lot of people there were pro-Nazi, yeah. And also because of the Amazon, it was very it's it's a place to really you can probably go listen there pretty easily, I would assume.
Yeah.
But a Soviet journalist by the name of Lev Bezminsky, I think, released a book titled...
just slaughtered somebody's name.
Yeah. Well, he wasn't a good guy, but... So he, released a book titled The Death of Adolf Hitler, which outlined a supposed autopsy, which concluded that he had died via cyanide. However, it never outlines any dissection of internal organs to support his claim. Like, he essentially was his source was trust me, bro. That was his source. Just trust me, bro.
Because everyone knows that's the most credible source in existence.
But like many eyewitnesses claiming completely otherwise. Like, he says, and he also made this claim because he says that a gunshot would be a coup de grace, which is essentially like mercy, like a last minute, whatever. It would likely be fired by Otto Gunshi.
What?
Gunshi? He was Hitler's personal assistant. But later, Lev admitted that he acted as a political propagandist to drive people to the conclusion that the gunshot was a lie. And he wanted to make his death seem more of like a cowardly thing to do, poison, and not like a soldier, which is like...
Yeah.
So, I don't know why, but a lot of people kind of believe that because he had that book. But that was really interesting. But this is just my personal opinion. Honestly, why should we trust the Soviets? During communist Russia, the U.S. was its greatest enemy and vice versa. Like, we hated each other. It's essentially like the U.S. and Iran right now, but times like 3. In the U.S. and Allied forces were like constantly trying to push
somebody's always hating on the U.S.
Exactly.
It's either Britain, or it's Iran, or it's the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
It's. I think every country has taken turns hating us. Yeah.
But essentially, like, the U.S. and Allied forces were constantly pushing to find out, what happened and, like, where Hitler was. And since Russia was the first to get to the bunker, the Allied forces knew the Soviets would have information and, like, kept pushing for it. So, why wouldn't they just say, oh, yeah, we found a jawbone that belonged to Hitler? Like, they said that they had a jawbone which belonged to Hitler, but who still has it? That's the thing. The Russians still have that jawbone. And
why do the Russians have it?
Because, I don't know, because they were like, finders keepers.
I just think the British Museum is going to get their hands on this.
I think it should go to the British Museum.
The British Museum, I
archives.
doubt the British Museum has ever received a single donation. And they've just stolen everything.
Pretty much, yeah. But after his death, the Soviets gathered a jawbone from the remains and presented it to his, so after they, burned the body and moved it, several times, for some odd reason, they needed it to be identified to be Hitler. So they brought it to his personal staff, which, x-rays and stuff. They were like, oh, yes, that's Hitler. But then, eventually in 2018, French pathologists were granted access to the fragment where they also confirmed the match.
How can you confirm that's Hitler when literally everybody's human skulls look the exact same?
Skulls?
Yeah.
Well, no, because he had specific, dental work. He had very specific, intricate dental work.
Okay, but what if somebody else had that very similar dental work? What if it was popular at that time?
It wasn't, but yeah, at the same time, yeah.
Exactly. Well, it could be fake. Those people could be lying.
But also, why did the Russians need it to be, what's it called? Why did they need it to be proved? They were the ones that kept moving their bodies and burying it and burning it. So then why do they need, to get a jaw fragment and then be like, oh, yeah. However, they did find also a piece of a skull, which they originally thought was Hitler's, but after, some crazy testing, they figured out it was a woman's, not his.
How do they even determine what's a man and what's a woman's, and who is, I don't understand.
So, while I was researching, I found, a bunch of different stories, some that Hitler shot himself and the Soviets found and burned scattered remains.
1 second.
The more you research, the more stories you find. Or that their bodies were burned multiple times by his own inner circle.
No, I'm still on the skull thing.
The skull?
Hang on.
Well, I'm moving on, so you gotta catch up. Here. Alright, Monson.
Shh.
But essentially, there were so many different theories that, his own inner circle burned his body, the Russians did, or they kept moving his body.
Okay, so you actually can tell a male and female skull apart.
Exactly.
But it's really just, size is all they're going on. What if you're, a really, teeny-weeny man, and so
A
like
little teeny whiny man.
they think you're like a female, or like you're some massive, like you have like a huge head as a woman, and they're just like, yeah, you're a male.
No idea.
But then also it's just like so small like curves, I guess.
I think that like the Germans burning his body and then like scattering it makes more sense, but it's not the adopted story. Like if his inner circle then took his body, burned it in the garden, scattered it, it would make more sense than the Soviets finding his dead body, moving him several times, and then the KGB burning him. Like,
okay, so I found like a picture of like female versus male of different races. So apparently different races have different skulls.
so I think mine's very generic.
Generic, yeah, I guess I have a generic skull.
I have a very generic skull, I guess. But in a sense, and also too, like they had to identify the fragment of jaw, which it doesn't make sense. But then also, why did they keep it under such supervision? Like, why don't they just put it in a museum under bulletproof glass? Like, we have such prized like things in museum, like the British Museum. But why is Russia still like holding on to it?
Russia holds on to everything, I feel like.
And they keep it. That's the thing, that they keep it secret. But then the British are like, oh, you see, we stole this, but we're putting it on display for you all.
I don't think that's British.
That is British.
That sounds like a really bad British accent.
Well, anyways, but like they take it all and then they're like putting it on display. But then the Russians just like steal it and then they keep it. And they're like, finders keepers. You can't see it.
Russia has nothing to do with Hitler.
Exactly. Well, actually, they did play a good role in the war. Not a good role, but a lot in the war. But at the same time, it should belong to Germany.
It should at least go to Germany, or the British Museum should go next. I think the British Museum should.
I think it should go to the British Museum.
I think we should just be giving things to the British Museum so they don't feel like they have to go steal things. I think it's like a trauma story. Like they were like neglected, and like so they just had to like go and steal everything to be put in their museum. What is the whole conspiracy about like the British Museum? People like stealing things in the British Museum.
I don't know. Those British are just greedy. They tried to own us. They tried to own the U.S. and then we retaliated. And then they just have a really bad history of stealing countries, people.
They're just possessive, is what like
I think
they're just.
No, I was about to say something, but I'm not going to say that anymore. A lot of stories say that their bodies had only been partially destroyed after being burned, and then were buried, and then restolen by the Soviets, and cremated by the KGB, and then officially destroyed. Like, there's so many freaking stories about this. However, the bone fragments in jaw and teeth were somehow discovered and, confirmed via dental records to be Hitler's, and then there were also theories that he escaped to South America. But according to the Soviet accounts and bone evidence, he did not in fact escape. There's no way he could have. But there's some theories saying like, he hopped between his churches, was like into the coastline, and then escaping via like a German U-boat. But
have they asked if any churches anything?
Well, I think so, but the churches were like, oh no, there's a lot of Nazis coming in and out. Like, we couldn't know. But
why with a country accent though? Why would you say that?
I don't know. It just happens. I don't know.
South America is not. It's not the southern United States.
It's still America. Technically, the whole continent is America.
Yes, but Southern America is very different.
That's
from
very
US.
southern down. Well, yeah.
It's very different from the southern
But
US.
actually, a lot of high-ranking Nazis that did escape, like Joseph Mengele, the Doctor of Death.
Doctor of Death.
He was a doctor who did terrible, terrible, terrible experiments on Jews, especially children. I highly recommend
so many
you watch. There's a video on YouTube.
There were like the Holocaust twin experiments and like
the twin experiments. I highly watch. There's a video on YouTube about a woman and her first-hand experience as a twin on the twin experiments with Joseph Mengele. But yeah, that's kind of all I have. As there's 20,000 different stories, and we're just kind of like, yeah,
like
Hitler died.
There's 20,000 stories to every story, though.
Exactly.
To every story you hear, there's like 20,000 more. There's no just like one story.
Yeah. But anyways, we're gonna move on to the Alcatraz escapes.
Yeah.
Oh, fun fact.
No.
The day that we are
Oh, yes.
recording this on, it's June 11th, which is the day that they escaped. This was not planned.
So, this is like the 64th anniversary, I think.
This was not planned. We just kind of like looked at it earlier, and like we were just working earlier, and then Emma looks at me and goes, "It's the 64th anniversary. It's June 11th." And I'm like, "What do you mean June 11th?" She's like, "It's the 64th anniversary of the Alcatraz escape."
This is probably not going to come out on June 11th.
It's not. It's gonna come out like.
It's gonna come out like June 13th, June 12th. I don't know.
Yeah, but
anyway, so Alcatraz. That's everybody's familiar with Alcatraz. It's like widely known as one of the most dangerous prisons to ever exist. But however, there have been many escape attempts, and like very few being successful. Or I don't actually think there was any successful escape attempt.
They probably got like outside, and then they were like.
Well, they got out. They escaped the prison itself, right? But like they probably didn't go to a new life. They probably didn't make it. But in fact, 36 inmates have staged 14 different escape attempts. So, but this all changed on the night of June 11th, 1962. So our story begins with Frank Morris, John Anglin, and Clarence Anglin. Morris was known to be a highly intelligent bank robber with an IQ of around 133 and a long history of escapes. The Anglin brothers also had a history of escapes. For 6 months, the 3 inmates have been working tirelessly on their escape plan. Using stolen metal and modified spoons stolen from the cafeteria, they managed to dig through the concrete wall of their cell and around the air vents. To cover the sound of the chiseling, Morris would play loud music. But to buy time and to fool the guards, they crafted lifelike dummy heads built with a mixture of toilet paper, soap, concrete, dust, and toothpaste. The hair was so they got the real, the hair was from the prison barber shop. So I guess they just took some hair off the floor.
Hey, barber, can we have some hair?
Can we have some hair for our escape? Sure.
We just want some hair to make things with.
To make what with?
To make things with.
What things?
Paintbrushes.
Okay.
We're gonna be artists.
Okay. But on the night of the escape, the prisoners put realistic dummy heads in the beds in order to fool the guards. But on the night of June 11th, they slipped through the loosened fence and managed to make their way to an unguarded utility corridor. So they climbed 3 stories, punched through a ceiling ventilation shaft, and accessed the roof. Eventually, they scaled a drain pipe down to the bay. The 3 inmates then boarded a makeshift raft crafted from over 50 stolen prisoner raincoats. No one knows exactly what happened after that. Where did they get those raincoats from? If you're in your cells all the time, where you just could be where'd you stash those anyway?
Well, they probably got some when they went out to the courtyard. They probably were like, "Oh, here's some raincoats just to have." Because the courtyard. I remember going in, it was so windy and so all that. So I think because you would get such friction burn from the wind burn, whatever it's called.
So basically, the prison guards didn't even notice that the inmates were gone until roll call the next morning at 7 a.m., hours after they had escaped into the bay. But searches for the prisoners began instantly with no success. The investigations continued until 1979, and then the FBI officially closed the case and declared them dead due to hypothermia and freezing water, or they got crushed against the rocks or something. But no bodies were ever recovered. They didn't ever find their bodies.
Mm-hmm.
But scientific models have even suggested that the men could have been successful and made it to the mainland due to the current of the ocean at the time they escaped. So around 10 p.m. But experts say that it's very much possible that inmates survived, made it to the mainland, and hid their identities. But all that they found was a paddle drifting in the water and some lifeboats and life jackets. Or not lifeboats, but their part of their makeshift lifeboat.
Mm-hmm.
But also, there's the stuff where they found the supplies and stuff was Angel Island, which is the largest island in San Francisco.
Yeah.
They could have made it to Angel Island if their stuff was there.
Mm-hmm. But also, like, I thought more recently, information came out with, like, a bunch of old men, like, claiming to be the Alcatraz brothers. Like, this was pretty recent.
Did they match the birthdays and stuff? Like, or, like, was it proven?
Let me see. So the FBI has never, like, fully verified it, but there was a letter in 2013 to the San Francisco Police Department in 2013. Yeah. A photo allegedly showing John and Clarence England in Brazil in 1975 surfaced.
How did they get to Brazil? They did not swim to Brazil.
No idea. In 2015,
Bro,
on
did
like,
not
a
just,
History
like,
Channel special.
They did not get on that little raft and was like, yeah, we're paddling to Brazil.
Forensic experts analyzed the image and like found it very likely to be the two brothers.
But what happened to the other guy?
Honestly, they probably just like
They're probably
go
like,
fend for yourself, dude.
or they probably like the raft was deflating. It was like they were too heavy, and they're like, yeah, like goodbye. Whee.
Yeah. So they did think. Oh, the handwritten letter that was sent to the San Francisco Police Department in 2013, claiming to be from John England, alleged that the three men survived the escape, but the writer stated that Clarence England died in 2008, with Frank Morris dying in 2005, and he offered to surrender in exchange for medical treatment. But the FBI further investigated the letter, but ultimately deemed the handwriting analysis inconclusive.
Well, your handwriting can change.
Yeah. Who knows?
But do they look like their brothers at all?
I don't know.
But there's been multiple people who've claimed to be them.
Exactly. Let me look up images.
Honestly, it's unlikely. The pictures look unlikely.
Yeah.
You could like edit some in later, but do you know what their crime was though? Their crimes were?
Let me see.
So, but they were like bank robbers. So that's
Yeah,
why they got
that
it.
makes sense.
Yeah,
it was just like petty offenses. So just like armed robbery and.
So,
I said that too casually. Oh, just some armed robbery.
Well, I think
Compared to
also
everyone
they
else.
did that with Frank Morris too. So they just like went and like tried to pull the same, or like just use their skills to try to escape Alcatraz.
Yeah. But yeah, we don't know. So going on to Brothers of the Tower, this one's very interesting. So the Brothers of the Tower, Princes of the Tower, is a very well-known mystery from the medieval times. And in the summer of 1483, 12-year-old King Edward V and his brother, a 9-year-old Richard, Duke of York, were placed in the Tower of London by their uncle Richard III. This is supposedly done to prepare them for their coronation. However, soon after, the boys mysteriously vanished from the tower, and their uncle took the throne. So, on April 9th, 1483, King Edward IV died of an unknown illness lasting a few weeks. And after his 12-year-old son, Edward V, was appointed as the new King of England, and once the news reached his uncle Richard III at around April 15th. We think he went to the York Minster to publicly pledge his loyalty to the king. So that was, first of all, red flag. He went, it's some church or something, to publicly pledge his loyalty. Like, what the pick me boy? I'm gonna go pledge my loyalty.
I'm going to publicly pledge my loyalty.
Yeah.
What the pick me boy?
And then, so before Edward IV's death, he supposedly appointed Richard as Lord Protector. However, the Privy Council was not obligated to follow the wishes of the dead. So they're just like, no. So Edward and his...
Well, they're also dead. You can't really, like...
Yeah. So Edward and his uncle set out for London, and eventually his uncle arrested Edward's personal staff, including the boys' other uncle, Anthony Woodville, and his half-brother, Prince Richard. This is another Richard. They were sent to Pontefract Castle, and on June 25th, Woodville and Gray were beheaded. So I think, what's his name? Richard Gray. Richard Gray, that was his name. Richard III then took possession of Edward himself. So he literally just like, oh, you're mine now.
Ah.
Yeah. But in result, his mother, Elizabeth Woodville, would take her other son, his brother, and her daughters to the Westminster Abbey as like shelter. And then once Edward and Richard arrived in London, they planned to continue Edward's coronation, but the date was postponed from May 4th to June 25th.
Okay.
On May 19th, 1483, he was sheltered in the Tower of London, which was tradition for upcoming royals. But on June 16th, he was adjoined. I don't know. That was just tradition to. That's where you lived until your coronation. But on June 16th, he was accompanied by his brother. And on June 22nd, Edward's coronation was postponed indefinitely after Sherman declared the only legitimate heir was Richard III, their uncle.
Well, he was also 12.
Well, that was uncommon though. The King of France at the time was 13.
Well, yeah, I also heard of like kings being like 5.
There was a 5-year-old king once, yeah. But on June 25th, knights and lords signed a petition for Richard to take the throne, and a year later, both brothers were declared illegitimate, supposedly because of the marriage of their mother and father was invalid because of their father's previous marriage contract with Lady Eleanor Talbot.
Well, because their dad was remarried then?
Well, I think it was kind of like a divorced, married situation.
So why isn't King Henry VIII being, like, given...
Yeah, no, it was law by the, church. So, like, that you can only marry once, but then he literally created his own church.
Oh, right.
And made it, yeah. But, an Italian
King Henry
visitor
VIII
claimed
had
that Edward and his brother received less and less and were being moved to the inner apartments of the tower. And supposedly they were visited by a doctor very often, like a victim prepared for slaughter. And supposedly they both also sought out forgiveness of sins and penance because they thought death was coming. But there were no sightings of the boys after the summer of 1483. So they got no idea. But supposedly many civilians...
Over 500 years ago.
Yeah. But a bunch of civilians were supposed to have rebellion against Richard III and save the boys before it's too late. However, the Duke of Buckingham, once the Duke of Buckingham became involved, they shifted, claiming that Buckingham had already known the boys were dead. Almost
How
200
did the boys die?
They don't know. They were just locked in a tower and never seen again. But however, 200 years later, in the year 1674, workers renovating the tower found a wooden box containing 2 small skeletons.
That's where they went. Guys, found
Yeah.
the princes.
Yeah.
Found them.
And they were presumed to be the 2 missing boys, and they were buried in the Westminster Abbey. The bones were historically studied in 1930 and were confirmed to be the remains of the boys, though their true identity could never fully definitely be proven.
Well, that's probably.
And this is the 1930s.
Boys, unless it's
yeah.
like a pattern of like we like killing little boys, like.
Yeah. But their uncle Richard III is of course the prime suspect for the disappearance. With the boys being so young, it wouldn't have made it hard for them to disappear and then steal the throne. But many historians say that the Chancellor of France had warned the Estates General of the fate of the princes, not princess, princes. So supposedly, like, some guy of France was like, "Hey, they're probably gonna die, or you need to go check on the boys."
Mm-hmm.
But their own king was only 13, so they were like worried. They were like, yeah. But some also say Buckingham was the one to do the deed and end their life, but with little evidence to support this claim.
So, but the skulls. Wait, so
The skeletons that they found, it was identified in 1930.
So what are the theories though? Like,
We don't.
Could
There's
they
not
be
really many.
murdered?
There's. I mean, just saying that.
well, it was also so long ago.
It was so long ago, and with like they say that like I think the main theory is that Richard III had ordered them to be killed.
I think it was the uncle.
It was 100% the uncle. He arrested his personal staff for no reason, and then killed a bunch of people, and then beheaded them. So he was all, what the heck? He's 12 years old. He's like, what the heck? You just killed a bunch of my servants. And then he's like, now you're my kid, and you're mine. So he's like, and then his mom was like, hid away in the
Where was
Westminster
the
Abbey.
mom with this?
I don't know. Well, she hid in the Westminster Abbey because there was nothing she could really do.
Why did she take her sons with her?
Whoa, this fly right
That
here.
fly is tweaking out. Wait, why didn't she just like take her sons with her?
She took his brother, but since Edward was like the new king and everything, like she couldn't, and Richard III was like Lord Protector, so I think it was like his job to protect them. So he literally took possession of the child, and they were just like, and the mom couldn't do anything. She couldn't do anything, so her child was just like taken. And I don't know why his brother was like eventually accompanied him. Like, what happened to the rest of his family? What happened to, because it did mention that he had 2 sisters. Or a few
Well, they
sisters.
probably went with the mom.
Yeah, but like, where did the mom?
I think the mom just kind of like fell off the face of the earth. Like,
Yeah.
it's like one of those stories where like the side characters, like nothing ever happens to them ever again. They just kind of like
Yeah, but
disappear.
that's kind of all we have. Very interesting. Yeah. Oh, also, if you guys want to send in your childhood stories, please do.
Or
childhood
just stories you.
Or just scary happenings that happened to you.
Yes. Our
We would
email.
love-
We have an email that's
We have an email.
bone dry.
Bone dry.
It's like drier than Sahara Desert.
Yeah, really, 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 really dry. I think it's Em&Ems unwrapped at
Let me look.
gmail.com.
So, it is EMEMSUNWRAPPED@gmail.com. So, if you want to make our inbox lively and fun and happy,
Please.
just send an email. Even if you're just saying hello, we would love to, because we will read your emails.
We
and
will
we
shout out.
respond.
We'll give you a shout out in the
We'll
episode.
give you shout outs. Yes.
Yes, but we'd love to hear childhood stories, any story. Honestly, just if you've had something paranormal happen to you or like something you don't know what happened, just send it to us.
Yeah, just send to us. We'll look.
But look, we'll try and validate your feelings.
Yes. Or if you have any requests too, like any episode
Yeah.
requests, like you want something you want to hear, just
Mhm.
like tell us.
Yeah.
We've been trying to upload our podcast episodes onto YouTube, but I just found out that because we are not yet a verified account, we cannot upload episodes longer than 15 minutes. So we're probably gonna have to create another like series of like mini episodes before then, so that we can finally get verified and we can upload things longer than 15 minutes.
Oh, thank you, YouTube. How helpful.
How helpful. Like, what do you mean I can't upload anything longer than 15 minutes? YouTube is the most restrictive freaking website app thing on the planet. Because I can be an unverified account and still have long videos because our videos are longer than 15 minutes.
But I think that's about it. Thank you for watching or listening or, I don't know,
All of the above.
supporting all of the above. Yeah. Bye.
Bye.